we'll see. Well, I'm curious how these next couple of games go. Is there this like big Rodgers game at some point, or does he look like he did against the Colts, where he's just checking down and playing the game in a 5 yard horizontal box? And I still feel like it's more likely than not he doesn't come back. And you would need a head coach or a GM to proactively come out and almost like an asshole be like, I want to be clear, like this is a new day. This is our ship. Rodgers is a passenger on that ship.
Yeah, we're the
We
New
are
York
going,
Jets.
yeah, we are going to be, and I'm using an old thing. We're going to be a ground and pound team. We're going to run the hell out of the football. We're going to play defense. Like we are not built around our quarterback. We are built around our offensive line and our running game. And if Rodgers could get on board with that, awesome, great. We're happy to have him, and we hope he's healthy. And you almost have to loudly cut Alan Lazard as quickly as you can. Like you got the head on the spike. Like this regime's over. Your buddies aren't here anymore. We'll keep Devontae because he's still good. But like everyone else, like out of here. There's no more Packers signings. There's no more Packers coaches. Like that's it. Hard to see that happening. But we'll see.
Man, a disgruntled employee is a disgruntled employee, man. Like it's
stinks up the whole room. It's toxic. It spreads. That's that. Yeah. And that look, I don't know what Rodgers' relationship is with all these dudes on the team. I'm sure, like, I just know that, man, a lot of these young guys look different this year. And I thought Rodgers was going to help sniff some of that out. And I don't know. I've watched the Jets look very pathetic this year and soft and quit and lose games that they shouldn't lose. And I'm just fed up with that. So let's see. We'll wrap with question we got, like, structurally in this interview process. Do you want, like, are we going GM first? GM hires the head coach. And how is that, like, dynamic set up? Or is it's very candidate dependent? But let's say all things being equal. In your mind, is it the Jets announced they hired their GM as soon as possible where it's, like, legal to do it? And then there's, like, a head coach search that goes for, like, 3 weeks or so and they pick a guy? Or is it, like, parallel path, or maybe there's a world where even the head coach goes first? What order would you prefer to see this happen in?
Well, what I would prefer is, one, I'd be putting out the feelers. What is it going to take to get Vrabel? And if the reality is he's like, I'm only going to the Jets and really most places if I get roster control, then you need to be having the combo to map out that route immediately. Like immediately. The good news is the Browns stink, so you're not waiting for the Browns to hit the playoffs to talk to him. He's an assistant on their staff, so that's a positive. And if hopefully you find out, this is one area where you think a guy like Spielman and Tannenbaum with their connections do really help you. You should know who's genuinely interested in your job and how to connect with them versus who's not. Now, if he is, and he sits there and looks you in the eyes and he's like, listen, guys, with how things ended in Tennessee, how I lost A.J. Brown, like, I need roster control. I'm willing to collaborate with a real scouting department, a real general manager, but I want the same avenue that Pete Carroll had in Seattle, that Kyle Shanahan has in San Francisco, and on and on and on, where, like, I have the final say over things. And if the Jets think he's the best candidate, which he is for this job, then you give it to him, and then you go through the process with Mike Vrabel of hiring that GM and setting up your scouting department. Do I think the odds of all that happening and, like, me getting what I want are likely? Probably not. So the realistic thing is what is going to happen with the Jets if you were a betting man and setting the most likely odds, the front runner. They are actively going through the GM candidates right now. They will be interviewing who they can, I would imagine, as soon as they can. Some guys, if they think they have a shot at a Borgonzi with Kansas City, like maybe you got to wait a little bit on that one. And they'll go through that process. And then they'll hire that general manager in time where they can go full swing into the coaching pool. And that'll be a collaborative effort with that general manager. The weird thing is that, like, here's an easy one, right? Let me give you a good candidate that I think you guys talked about with Traeger. Ray Agnew, right? From the Detroit Lions. Ray Agnew is a very accomplished NFL man. He is 56 years old. He played in the NFL in the 90s. He's been an executive in the NFL, with the Rams to the Lions. He's the assistant general manager for the Lions right now. Agnew has a really good reputation around the league as a scouting eye. Knows how to build the trenches, understands that evaluation part of the process. Agnew, you could see a path where it's like you sit down with Ray and you're like, okay, Ray, like, who are your coaching candidates? And he's like, I want Aaron Glenn. He's my guy in Detroit. And I'm just giving examples. It's like, okay, we like Ray Agnew. He's going to be our GM. And now we're going into the coaching search. And the first guy we're going to talk to is an Aaron Glenn. And we're going to talk to Brian Flores and all these guys. But where it gets a little difficulty, to kind of piggyback off your conversation with Schrager, like, who is Mike Greenberg's candidate, for a guy that he's accomplished a lot with the Bucks. He runs all their salary and all that stuff, but Spytek with the Bucks and Light, the other assistant GM and the GM, they run the draft. So does Greenberg, if he's the GM, does he know what they're looking for in a head coach? Like, this is the hard part to answer. And it's probably why some guys have a leg up compared to others that don't after the interview, because they know coaches and some don't. And I'm not saying Greenberg doesn't, but it's hard to know. Like, is he sitting there like, I'm going to bring Liam Cohen with me, our offensive coordinator from the Bucks? Does he have that power? So, but that's most likely the process, is you hire the GM and you have that GM ready to go through the coaching process.
Greenberg, Cohen, interesting to look at in the betting odds if he becomes a serious candidate.
It's not, I would obviously give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't have a lot of ties to any of those guys, but I don't know. It feels like just like a kind of, let's see how this goes. Yeah.
I mean, look,
like, who's running the draft in that scenario? Neither of them have ever.
Dusty Phil Stavage sticking around for another year, maybe.
And I'm biased because I'm a draft guy, but like it's hard for me to sit here and pitch.
Yeah.
Unless I'm always going to default back to a guy that can actually evaluate and draft. I'm not saying he can't, but he hasn't been tasked with doing that. There's two other guys above him in Tampa to do that.
Such a key part of what the GM has to do is, like, you need someone for the Rex Hogan and Chad Alexander role. Like, it's good they had those positions. They were just the wrong guys for them. But you need those hires, and you need someone in the Phil Savage spot, and you probably need someone else to help you clean up all these void years that Douglas left. And you need a whole other wave of
money
stuff.
guy. You do.
Yeah. You kind of need all these things. And look, that's where, and we'll close with this, it's where Douglas failed, and why the sob story bullshit doesn't resonate with us is we were there for this process. He got everything he wanted. He got a max 6-year contract with the budget to build his own team and his own staff. And the first thing he did was hire Mike McCagnon's number 2, Rex Hogan. Unserious hire. Everything filtered down from there. And if you look at who he kept, it's a lot of Mike McCagnon's staff and it's a lot of John Idzik's staff. So you had a problem with McCagnon and Idzik. Douglas took that money and that contract and kind of kept a bunch of holdovers. And I guess the biggest move he did was bringing Alexander in, and like, okay, that didn't work. But it's like kind of insane that that's who his number 2 was. It was weird at the time because, like, why in God's name would you do that? Like, I'm trying to think of like a proper like analogy, and it's like it's almost like crazy in retrospect that that's what his biggest hire was. It's almost like if the Jets hired a new head coach and they would like keep Hackett as the offensive coordinator, or like bring Hackett back as the offensive coordinator.
It's a great call by you, because it is the same thing. It's just not as front facing, because we heard from Rex Hogan like never. And you, unless you're in it, you don't know exactly what players he vouched for in the draft, but it's just the difference is it's not as front facing, but it's the same exact issue, like a laughable issue. So, and by the way, for people that are like, well, how do we know like that was him? Because a lot of people somehow still like to do this. When you get a 6-year deal as a GM, like, you negotiate for everything. And he got his guys. He was able to bring in his guys. He just had the wrong guys. So I don't know. Man, I just can't believe we're even having, like, people are having that conversation. How long Joe Douglas was left alone. Woody Johnson was gone.
Over half a decade.
Literally. Yeah, for some of it. And then, honestly, given a huge runway for other parts of it, it's crazy. It's crazy. He had a lot of his chances and he missed. And the next guy is going to have a lot of his chances. And that's why the Jets have to give out a 6-year deal to a first-time GM, because the agents don't trust the Jets, so they want to protect them in case they get bamboozled. And he didn't even get screwed like that. He was given a really good runway. Then when year 6 came around and the team still sucked, he lost all power, because that's how organizations go.
Yep.
So, and listen, it's once again the combo of it's a multi-layered issue. Like, when things start going wrong with the Jets, you can see, I won't name them individually, but different departments of the Jets treat it like the Titanic, where everybody's running for the lifeboats and the lifeboats are running out to save their own ass. And they're grabbing the kids and saying, I have a child, and trying to get on the lifeboat with the women and children. That's how the different departments of the Jets run when things go wrong. And that's why some people are just there regime after regime after regime, because they play the game. So that's where it's at right now. And the Jets, until they have an honest conversation with themselves of that being the problem, are going to have to keep giving out 6-year deals to GMs. And hopefully they finally hit it on quarterback and head coach and win some football games.
Happy Thanksgiving, War Room. Here we are. Here we are.
Oh, man.
Listen,
Really
we've given you plenty of fodder. We hope the Jets don't embarrass themselves against Seattle at MetLife. We'll be back after the game talking about it regardless. Post-game therapy, post-game party, I guess. Either way, we'll be here. And that's it. Enjoy your holiday, and we will talk to you soon.